Street Smart Podcast back at Upright Digital Studios, The Lounge. Today we're talking with Amy Malkan. And Amy's got a unique story, a unique person. I thought that my jacket game was on point. She has definitely one-upped me here. So it's a fabulous jacket.
Thank you.
And I don't know what else to say about that. But Amy, thank you so much for being a part, man. I can't wait to get into your story and learn more about you.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much.
So you and I got connected, and we were just talking about that off air a moment ago, exactly how. And I think it was the most like third and a half party-ish way to get connected. It was, I think that if I had to go back and find it, I think it was you liked or commented on something that someone I knew had commented on something I'd done on LinkedIn maybe.
What did you do that I liked? Now I'm kind of curious.
Who knows? I do so many good things on LinkedIn.
Very stingy with my likes. So no, I'm just kidding. I'm not.
Well, it was not. You didn't like anything I did. You liked something someone said about something I did. Potentially that might be it, and I don't know what it was. But then I looked at your profile. I was like, well, that's interesting. And then you start kind of getting into it, and you're like, man, at some point, Amy decided she could absolutely be an artist, and seems like it has a real calling. But we'll get to that. And I want to learn all about how you got to that point that you were going to say, this is what I do now. But first, let's just learn about you. So where were you born? Where you were raised? Yeah. All of that stuff.
Yeah. Born and raised here in Houston. I'm like only one of the few natives that are still here. I'm first generation Indian American. So my family is from India and migrated here about 40 years ago. And I grew up in a very like traditional Indian household. What you can imagine when you see on on TV and stuff, like a really traditional Indian household. Grades were really important. Grew up in A-Leaf. So
did you make good grades?
I did. I made really good grades. I was like I graduated like top 3% of my class in high school, but, school was really easy and it didn't really challenge me. So was I really that smart? I don't know. It's like debatable.
Well, you could say, it was school easy because you were smart.
No, I think school was just easy because it was just school. Because when I went to Baylor, I got a full academic ride there, scholarship, and I flunked out freshman year. I just did not have good study habits. I did not have good time management. I was introduced to boys and alcohol, so like that was a whole thing.
At Baylor?
At Baylor. Oh, that Christian school
Baylor?
was wild.
Baylor is a Baptist university, man.
I know. The Christian schools are the wildest ones.
I went to Texas Tech. The alcohol's there too.
Yeah, but it's not as wild because I met a few Texas Tech people. I don't think they understood how wild the parties were.
You didn't be the right ones.
We beat you on football a few times.
Yep. How'd it go this year?
Huh?
How'd it go this year?
I don't go there. I don't really follow college. I don't even follow football. My motto is, if there's no return on investment, I really don't care. I won't curse. Are we allowed to curse on this?
Sure.
Cool. Because I curse. I don't give a fuck if it doesn't make me money.
Well, and so there you have it. We're there. You can bet on football and make money.
Yeah, I don't want to bet. I'd rather bet and get a return on investment like clothing, a Chanel purse, rather than there's a possibility I'll lose.
What kind of jacket is that?
Oh, this is a cheapo jacket.
It's not cheap at all. Look, you're talking to someone that still shops at Ross.
Yeah, I'm a Ross shopper too.
I love that. And my wife,
I love Ross.
I can't convince my wife that just because it was $5 and she bought 20 of them, it's still somehow not $100 that was spent, but whatever.
It totally makes sense to me.
But at the same time, the value of the jacket isn't in the cost of the jacket. It's in how people respond to the jacket.
Yes. And how they wear it, how one wears the...
Correct. Yeah. That's an outstanding jacket.
Yeah.
So, good grades. You go to Baylor.
Yeah.
Life beat you about the head and shoulders at Baylor. How long were you at Baylor?
Less than a year. I tried to keep up the gig by... I started working in high school because I realized the importance of financial freedom. My dad is very old school and very just patriarchal in his thinking, and no fault to him. It's just the way he was raised. And his control over me was money. There was things that I could not do, and I'd have to ask him, and I just did not like that feeling. So my parents were against me working. They wanted me to concentrate on school. And I was like, I need freedom. It's just like in my spirit. Like, I don't like to be contained by anybody. And so...
Artist.
Yes, an artist. Yeah. And so And so, yeah, I started working. And so in college, I was also working. And so when I flunked out, I got, I was working and I started paying for community college there. And then it just got really overwhelming. And I wasn't doing good at the community college because working and then social life, because I still didn't understand time management at that time. And I think I was just like overcompensating, thinking that I was like book smart because of high school, when I really wasn't like book smart. Like I really did have to sit down and study. And because I didn't build good study habits, like all of that compounded. Like the gig was up. I had to come clean to my parents and say, yeah, like I flunked out a semester ago. And like I have no money and I need help now. And they were pissed and they were going to send me to a convent school and get me straightened out all the way to India. And I'm like, that's not going to help. That's not really realistic. That can't be. Like, I think any Asian audience that watches this will totally identify, because any Asian American, like first generation person, their parents will threaten them on anything.
Send you back to the old country.
I'm going to send you back to the convent school. Like, that's it. And it's like, you didn't clean your room, I'm sending you to the convent school. So yeah, it's really bad. So I came back and went to U of H.
Seems like a legit terrifying threat.
It is very terrifying. Guilt, like Asian parents invented guilt trip. Like they know how to.
The travel agents of guilt trips.
Yes, yeah. I went to U of H and I graduated in 2009, and you walk the stage and you don't know if you really passed all. And then I passed all the classes, and then I got a notice saying I didn't pass one class and technically I didn't graduate. And I'm like, fuck this shit. I'm so over school. Like, I'm ready to get out in the real world and do my thing. Right. So I have an extensive career in sales. All sales, you name it, I've done it. I've done like face-to-face fundraising. I've done door-to-door. I've done, cold calling, all of it, inside, outside sales, you name it, I've done it. And it's like, I'm one of those weird salespeople that actually love doing sales.
You enjoyed it, huh?
I enjoy it.
What was the job that you took when you were trying to get some freedom when you were a child? When you were
Express. I was working in retail.
Okay.
So I had to fold clothes and straighten up and
terrible.
Clean. I do not want to do retail ever, but I definitely recommend everyone to do retail. It humbles you and you learn people skills. And then I was also a waitress in between my sales career and transitioning into becoming an entrepreneur. I was in waitressing, and I was strategic in where I chose to waitress. I waitressed at Carrabba's off of Kirby with Johnny Carrabba before he turned into like that Carrabba block. It was the very original one. And I knew that there was people there who were influential and decision makers and people who had money. And so I knew that if I networked with these people, they could help me build my business. And so
at some point, right?
At some point, they would buy artwork from me, because I knew people would ask like, oh, what are you doing? Like, are you in school? And then that was my opportunity to tell them what I was doing.
Right.
And I took advantage of that. And I did. There are a lot of customers there that helped me grow my business because they supported me in my dream, which I'm so thankful for.
That's awesome. So my first job was sacking groceries, and yes. I still do that. I still love doing that. I'll race the people at Kroger if they show up. I'm like, you want to race? Yeah. And my wife gets tired of that so much.
But are you good at sacking though? Do you know like to put the cold with the cold?
What kind of a question is that?
I'm just letting you know, because I used to also work as a manager at HEB, and that was like my pet peeve with the baggers.
When I started my job, it was at Albertsons.
Okay, I remember Albertsons.
I was born and raised in Midland.
Okay.
So we had Albertsons, and the first 2 days was legitimately sitting in training talking about what goes with what in these bags.
Like, don't smash my bread.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And so, yeah, I know what I'm doing.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
I think we need to have a race off. I need to see, because I think I could beat you. I'm just saying.
Agree to disagree. Maybe it's a follow-up episode, maybe. Anyway, so you go to Baylor, you flunk out. You're working in Waco. What are you doing in Waco? You waiting tables? What are you doing?
No, I only had retail experience. So then I was working at Dillard's and doing retail at Dillard's.
So you're folding clothes now at Dillard's and not Express.
Yep. I was just, moving up the like, I guess the retail chain. That's all I knew, you know?
Usually you start at Forever 21, but you jumped right to Express.
No, I was a little bit more high end than Forever 21. I'm bougie.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously. So then you come back from, you call your parents, fall on your sword, hey,
yeah,
I need help. You come back, what then?
So then I went to U of H.
U of H.
Yes, and did not graduate.
What is your degree not in?
No, I do have a degree now.
Oh, okay.
I do. Actually went back. When I started my entrepreneurship journey, people kept asking me, because I was young. I don't get asked that question now because I don't look 21 anymore. But when I was in my 20s, people would be like, "Oh, well, what's your degree in?" And I don't like to lie, so I'm like, "Oh, I don't have a degree." And then I talked to a recruiter, and she gave me a clever way. She's like, "Say you're in pursuit," and I was like, "I like that."
You can do that in your 20s.
Pursuit of getting my you can get it. Yeah, I mean, you can get it. Do it in your 30s, whatever. You know, life happens.
So I'm 47 and I don't have a degree. And so when people ask me that, I'm just flat out like, I didn't get it.
I agree. I think at that time it's like no fucks given. It's like, I didn't get it. I'm successful. Like, why does that matter?
I mean, it's still somehow in a weird way when someone asks me that and I can't say I have one, I feel sort of gross, but I don't know why. It's a weird thing. It's a personal thing.
Yeah, I think it's a personal thing because I know some people who are very proud of it, who are like, I don't have a degree and I'm totally okay with it.
I'm proud of what I've accomplished and everything, and I don't ever think about it except when I'm asked. Yeah. Most people just assume.
That's weird that they even ask still. I haven't been asked that in a long time.
I've been asking a long time. The last time I was truly asked that question, this is funny. I was applying for a job. I was kind of in between gigs, and the recruiter called me. It was that first level recruiter, that calls and is just asking a bunch of, cursory questions. You're probably reading off of a sheet of paper. And she's like, I'm looking at your resume and you actually look very overqualified for the position you've applied for. And I was like, yeah, I'm fine with that. I just kind of want to get back in and start doing what I was doing. And she's like, okay, what is your degree in? And I said, well, I don't have one. And she said, well, you're not qualified for the position. And I said, well, that's real funny because you just said I was overqualified.
You're right.
Well, it requires a degree. And I said, why? And she said, well, I don't know why. It just does. I said, well, good luck with that. And but I just thought it was funny. You're overqualified and you're not qualified.
Yeah. I think there's some people who are just so caught up in the way it's supposed to be that they miss out on so many other opportunities and that just goes in all areas of our life. Like, where in our life are we so caught up in the way it's supposed to look like and be that we miss out on opportunities because it doesn't fit our narrative or picture?
Do you think that kind of a thought ever delayed your decision to go full-time I'm an artist?
No, what delayed was the first not seeing an example of a successful artist, knowing that that's like a possibility. Two, just, my parents were very traditional thinking people. They're immigrants. They came with it's like this typical story. They came with no money here. They worked their asses off to provide a decent, good life for me and my sister. And they just want financial security for me and for their daughters. And so, telling them, hey, I want to even go to school, to college to pursue an art degree, that wasn't even an option. Because in their head, it's not about, what makes you happy and, mental health and all that, it's like, we need to make sure that you're financially secure.
You need to be an earner.
Yeah. Yeah. And where is there any examples that you know of that you, even to this day, that you're like, I know an artist who is successful, who does this full time and is a thriving business. Like, you don't meet too many of those, I know because I'm in the industry.
Sure. Yeah, it is interesting, and I was telling my wife when I was talking to her about doing this interview, and I reminded her that several years back we'd gone to see Dave Matthews' concert, and the violinist for Dave Matthews is next level. He's insane, and I was laughing, and I told her, I said, at some point in his life, his dad was like, "Hey man, put the violin down, and give me a side hustle, but you need a job," and he was like, "I'm gonna stick this out, Dad," and now look at him, the guy's world famous, and and I don't know his name, and that's funny, but
I think that when you have like a purpose and calling, no matter how much you fight it, eventually it's going to catch up with you. Like, even if it's in your 60s or 70s, like, if that is the purpose, that whatever you believe in, God, universe, whatever, if that's your purpose, it's going to find it.
So you can't outrun that.
You cannot outrun it. It may have been delayed, but then what is, like, I think that's also like a made up concept, because whatever is meant to be for you is meant to be for you at that time and space. So like, I don't even think about delayed, because people ask me that question. And before I used to say like, yeah, had my parents supported me and blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, would I have really been ready to have accepted my calling in that time and space? And I don't think so. I wasn't prepared. I wasn't mature enough. I wasn't responsible enough. So I think that everything is supposed to happen the way it's supposed to happen. Like, because even my dad, he'll be like, oh, like if something bad happened, oh, I wish that didn't happen to you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, look, you have to have rain for flowers to grow. I don't believe in utopia. I don't believe in that. Like, you cannot just have rainbows and sunshine. It's like, how then you won't appreciate the rainbows and sunshine. So I welcome adversity and challenges and hiccups, because that makes me stronger and more resilient. And I learn from those things so I can become a better person, better whatever, in whatever area of my life from overcoming that. So I celebrate that.
And whatever lessons you learn out of that too, you then can apply to future issues or future endeavors or whatever. And so your first job is in sales, I'm going to guess.
Yes.
Which first job, like you would say, this is a career type job, not a
I was working in college at U of H, I was working as, I was actually working at IBC Bank. I was an account manager, and I was stationed inside.
Fancy way to say a sales guy.
Yeah, I was in sales, and I was stationed inside HEB, and I hated the approach of catching the customer right when they're exiting to get them to come back in to open up an account. And I'm like, there has to be a better way, because in my head, psychologically, if I'm already out the door, you're not going to make me turn back around because I'm ready to get out.
Correct.
So I'm like, they didn't have sackers or baggers in the express lanes. The people that worked at HEB can only do it where it wasn't an express lane. So I'm like, that's where I can come in, because I don't work for HEB. I'm an IBC employee, and I'll help sack, and I'll catch those people in the express lane to open up an account. So I was bringing in the accounts, but then the unit director, Jay Griffith, shout out to him, gave me my first managerial job.
Aww.
He was watching my hustle, and he recognized it.
He was with HEB.
He was with HEB. He was the unit director, which is the highest level of the store. And he took me to lunch, and he said, he's talking about my goals and blah, blah. And he was like, I want to offer you a managerial job at HEB. And he was talking to me how I could climb up the corporate ladder and all of that. So I said, yeah, let's do it. I will always say yes to an opportunity. Even if I don't understand it or I don't know, I will say yes. Like, just go for it. And worst comes to worst, if it's not a fit, you just say it's not a fit and you keep it moving. And I got a lot of slack, because apparently to be an assistant service manager, you had to have started from the bottom as a bagger to move up to a cashier and then get interviewed to be an ASM. And I just went straight as an ASM. So
technically, you started as a bagger.
Yeah, technically. So I had to prove my worth. I got hazed by a lot of the managers there, the other ASMs, and as well with the cashier and baggers. And I think like after 6-7 months, and they saw like that I was working hard, and it wasn't just like, back in the day, I was in my 20s, my 20s, and I was like probably 30 pounds skinnier than this, and I wore, I knew I was in sales, so I wore like the high heels and the tight pencil skirts, and I knew what I was doing. I was working it, and I think they were just like, oh, she's pretty, and that's why she got this job. Right. And when they saw me working hard, they were like, oh, she's legit working, like she's not just standing there looking pretty. And I earned the respect of my peers. And that was my first managerial job in college, like towards the end of college.
It's interesting too. It taught you a great lesson in terms of just getting the position is never enough, right?
Yeah,
you've got to show the people that are there, that have been there, that no, I deserve this, and we're a team. We're in this together.
I had to earn their respect,
sure,
because I was managing probably around 30 to 50 people at the same time. Like, I'm managing their schedules, when to take their breaks, when to, shift changes with the baggers and the cashiers. At the same time, I'm directing traffic and greeting everyone that's walking by. And me personally, no matter what level job, even if I was a janitor, I take it extremely seriously, like as if I am like the CEO of that job. And I think that mindset has helped me get to where I am today. And I just didn't take it as a fluff job. Like, I took it very seriously. And I think when they saw that, they're like, okay, we respect her. She's doing her job. We may not like the way she got it or whatever, but at the end of the day, she's still doing what she's supposed to be doing, and she's taking care of us. And like, that was another thing. There was times where I wanted to like my immediate manager, we just clashed. I didn't like her and she didn't like me for whatever reason. And there were moments where I wanted to cry. And I remember going to Jay's office and he said, suck it up. Like, do not cry in front of these people, because then they're going to see you as weak. Go take it out in the restroom and come back. And like, I agree and I don't agree, but I agree, because like the moment you show that kind of weakness,
right,
as a manager level, you've lost your like power. And I'm so glad he told me that. And he was just like, hey, if you want them to take care of you, you got to scratch their back, you know? And so I made sure that I scratched all of the baggers and cashiers back so that they took care of me. So if somebody was running late or I needed them to stay a little bit longer on the cashier's stand, they would do that for me because they knew I was going to take care of them.
Sure.
I'm glad he taught me certain lessons that has helped me now when I have to lead people, because there's a certain art to that. I think just saying that you're at a leadership level does not mean people will follow.
It's the hardest thing to do.
Yes.
Is if you can find a business that you don't need people in, that's the business to be in, because that's the real challenge, is trying to, because everyone's different. And you got to figure out what motivates each individual person. So how long were you at HEB?
I think like 2 years. 2 years.
And then you went where?
Oh, shit. I don't know. I think I got like a corporate job after that, because I'd graduated college and I think I got a corporate job. I don't know what my first corporate job was, but I know I was in sales. I was doing some sort of sales. I just remember probably 10 years from that moment, it was like 2016. And someone was looking at my resume and they're like, you've jumped around. And your longest, it's like every 2 years you jump around. And I never saw that pattern. And I realized it was because I wasn't getting challenged. I was like bored after 2 years. I'm like, what's left? I don't know. So I worked different corporate jobs, small companies, nothing, I don't know.
That's
and I just
so
jumped
awesome.
every 2
You're
years.
like, I don't know. It's just, so what's interesting
My
is,
brain can only hold so much space, and it's like irrelevant at this point.
I mean, very creative.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
I'd take up the brain space with creativity for
Yeah.
sure. But it's funny to me to think that, because I could tell you every single job I've had since I was 16. And not that anyone really cares about that, is a weird flex for sure.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, in all of the conversations I've had, what I'm hearing you say is, I don't know, I just did the same thing at different places every 2 years.
Yeah, I wasn't getting challenged.
Right.
There was no fun. Like, I remember I worked for a small AV company, and I love the owner, Wayne Springer. Love him. He's like a dad to me. But like after a while, I was like not getting challenged, and I was moving at a faster pace. And it was like the small business conundrum, right? If you like grow too fast, but you can't keep up with the demands, and you're overselling and under promising, and that's not a good thing. And at that point, then I was doing that without intentionally doing that. And it just wasn't moving fast enough for me. I'm a doer. You give me an action item, it's going to get done ASAP. And there's no excuses. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, but I have this and I got this. Like, literally, I sent out like 10 emails by the time I got here, because everyone's asking for something. And I just like do it immediately. Otherwise, it's going to get lost in the abyss of memory and I won't remember it. Or I'm just busy doing something I physically cannot get to. Like, when I leave here, I have to go paint a mural. I'm not going to be on my phone. I'm going to be on site painting. No one's going to be able to access me. And I also don't want to be accessible, because I'm in that mode of painting and I want to give it all to that
Also,
client.
your phone is going to be capturing some pretty sick time lapse.
No, I have got a time lapse camera.
Okay,
I invented one. Brino, also another shout out.
So my GoPro actually does time lapse really well too.
Yeah, a Brino is a construction camera, and it only it's battery operated, and I like that because it lasts for a really long time, and it's very easy to like capture and get it into my computer, and it's all weather resistant. I'm sure GoPro is too, but it's like a construction camera.
Not weather resistant; it's waterproof.
And it's waterproof. Yeah.
Mine is waterproof.
Well,
the GoPro's waterproof.
Good GoPro. Yes.
Anyway, no, but Your time lapses are very cool to watch those things come together. Anyone that is interested, we'll give all your social media and stuff at the end. But it's very cool to watch. So you have this blur of how many years doing sales stuff?
2008, 8 years. 2008 to like 2013, 14, somewhere around there. Yeah.
And you decide, this sucks.
Yeah, I was like, this sucks. This cannot be life. I cannot be just working to pay bills. This cannot be it. And I had just gone through like a breakup, and I was like feeling suffocated in Houston, and I know Houston's big, but it just felt really small. And I was like, I need a change of scenery. I need to get out of here. And so I landed on Australia, and I moved to Australia for a whole year.
What?
Yeah. I was like, I just need to go. I can't do this.
Where'd you live in Australia?
I lived all over.
If you say Sydney, I mean, like you traded a major city for a major city?
This is what I did. So I'm moving to Australia. My parents, I was 27.
They were very proud, I'm sure.
No, my dad's like, what the fuck? You are old.
Yeah. Hey, what?
Literally, this is Indian parents.
How old were you?
27. He was like, you are old. You are at your prime, and you need to get married now. Otherwise, it will be hard for you to find a man. Now, my dad is right, because now I'm like 38, and I'm like, oh, where is he? And they all suck out. No, they don't all suck out there.
Wow.
It's an interesting scene out there.
I don't know that. I've been married now. That's be 18 years.
Yes, congratulations. That's a huge feat. And I tell people I know like this. I know a few couples and they want to get divorced. I'm like, but what is it? Infidelity? No. Whatever it is, deal with it, because you don't want to be single out here.
It is a priceless thing that my wife and I know each other's moves.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating at times too, obviously, like everything in life, but it's way more pleasurable to know that
you have a person.
Yeah. She, and we have history. Like you
know each other.
You go, hey, you remember back in whatever date this, and she's like, yeah, it was, I was like, that's stupid, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you move.
So moved to Australia.
As an old biddy.
At 27 years old. And I packed up my whole life. So at that time, right before I left, I had to make money because my parents were like, we're not paying for this. And we're not going to pay for your bills, because then I had student loans and stuff, right? Because I lost my scholarship, and then I had to pay for U of H. And so I was working 3 jobs. I was a manager at Bed Bath & Beyond. I was doing outside retail, outside sales, because it's really easy, right? They don't require a degree or nothing. They're just like, sure, we just need hands on deck.
Can you fold clothes?
Right. I didn't have to fold clothes. This time I was lifting heavy, like pots and pans, like I was in housewares. But I was a manager, so I didn't have to do that shit. I had to delegate.
I had to delegate
because I had other important managerial things to do.
Listen, I would definitely lift that. I've got spreadsheets
but I
to handle.
have to, yeah, exactly.
I got spreadsheets.
And I have to meet and greet customers. I am the face of housewares. And so that Carrabba's, I was a hostess at nighttime. And so I did that. I was working 3 jobs. I was hustling to get paid. I had no life. I sacrificed like almost a whole year of like, I need to stack up some money. So by the time I tallied up the math and stacked everything up, I only had $2,000 that I could take with me there to Australia.
You hustled 3 jobs for a full year
to save up money in the bank account to pay some bills.
And you had $2,000.
I had $2,000 left over that I could take with me because I had to pay student loans. That's a monthly thing that's coming on.
Yeah.
I had other monthly bills that I had to like stack up for, because my parents were like, we're not giving you 1 cent. And I was like, fuck, okay, but I'm still going no matter what. I'm going to make it happen. I got a work and travel visa so that I could work in Australia, because obviously $2,000 can only stretch you for however long. Landed there, did not know where I was staying. And so when I got to the taxi guy, said, take me to the nicest hostel that you got. He was like, okay. We got into the city of Sydney and brought me to a hostel. And I was like, this looks nice. Looks like a nice like Holiday Inn hotel. And I stayed there, paid up for the week. Conversion from the 2,000 to Australian dollars, had like $1,800 then. Paid for a week of staying, and that was like $600, $800 right there. Food and all that. I was like,
I spent half of your money
already in the first week. But they have an agency for backpackers like us, like me. And I'd already given my resume and said, hey, here's my travel visa, work and travel visa. I'm looking for a job. And they're like, we're looking for you, but nothing had came up. I saw an advertisement for surf camp. It was like $600. You learn how to surf. You get food and it was like you get lodging and food. So $600. Still have money left
Lodging,
over. Let's
food,
do it.
money.
And learn how to surf. So I did that the
So I would
second
look
week.
at that and think, maybe sharks.
Huh?
I don't like the ocean much.
There was no.
There's
Well,
sharks.
I didn't go all the way into the end
Can't
because
say
then
there's
I
no
was
sharks.
freaking out. I was freaking out.
There are plenty of sharks, and everything in Australia is trying to kill you. You know that.
Yeah, and they have big, but I don't think their spiders are as big as Texas. Texas got them beat on some of the spiders and
Some maybe,
yeah.
but not all. There's
But I learned how to surf, and then I got a job, and I was working in a Christmas factory doing commercial decorations, and so I had to fluff out these big Christmas trees that would go in these big malls.
Oh, you just described my wife's greatest
No, it was-
nightmare
Yeah, it's a nightmare.
in
It's not fun.
history.
Yeah.
We debate every year putting a Christmas tree up because she does not want to do that.
Oh, I didn't do it this year. My son went to his dad's for Christmas, and I'm like, woohoo, no Christmas
We
tree.
tried to pay our daughters,
Yeah.
a 21-year-old and 17-year-old. We tried to pay them to do it, and they half-assed it. Still got paid.
Right.
And then my wife
You
did
didn't teach
it.
them the hard lesson because in real life they wouldn't have got paid.
We're not Indian,
Okay.
and so they just get everything handed to them.
Oh no.
Yeah.
No, see, my son's learning that too. Nothing gets handed. I don't care. You're 5. I don't
Hey
know.
man,
Yeah, you're gonna have to work for it, honey.
you're 3 years older than the working age. What's
Yeah.
the problem?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
so you show up in Australia, spend half your money in a week, have no idea what you're doing. Now you're fluffing Christmas trees.
Loving Christmas
after
trees.
you learn how to
and
surf.
I learned how to say fuck Christmas trees in German because I was working with other German girls.
Hit me with that.
And it was like fick this, and I don't know how to say Christmas tree anymore. But fick this I learned is fuck.
I'm gonna say fick
Yeah.
is probably
Fick this. It's like, I don't know. Anyways, I had to wear these like large leather gloves because you would cut these.
like
these
welding
are,
gloves.
Yeah, because and then speaking of welding, I knew how to solder. My high school art teacher invested a lot of time with me. Shout out to Joni Maniotis. I love her. Still keep in touch with her.
There's so many people to tag. I'm gonna run out of. Is there
it's
a
all
limit on
good.
people you can
I
tag?
will tag them. I will
All
tag them for
all
you.
right, perfect.
And I knew how to solder. So I met a welder there. He was welding. He was putting together all the Christmas stuff. And I was like, I know how to weld. And he was like, for real? And I was like, yeah. It's like, fuck, I'll have to learn how to weld real quick. He's like, all right, I'll bring you on the team. I said, yes, fuck the Christmas trees. Get me in welding. And he found out he was like, well, I didn't get to go into welding. He's like, before we can go there, I need you to string these Swarovski crystals that are going to get attached to Santa's throne. So I can also do that. I have jewelry experience.
Sure, yeah.
So I got to
Retail.
do that for a little bit. You can only work for a job for like 6 months there, and then you have to transition into something else. That's just part of the travel work visa. So I ended up leaving there. I worked, then I did the face-to-face fundraising, which I'm glad I got to do. So
And this is all in Australia.
it's all in Australia. So currently I'm based in Sydney. I found an apartment. This girl was leasing a room in her 2-bedroom apartment at Hyde Park, overlooking like all of Sydney, Australia. So like on my balcony, I could see the Opera House and the Harbour Bridge every morning.
So every morning you walked out to a poster.
To a poster.
Yeah,
Legit
that's pretty
poster.
awesome.
It was so nice. So she had her own room. She was from Argentina. And then she rented out the other room. The master bedroom had 2 bunk beds. So I stayed there it was myself, a Belgian girl, and 2 English girls. And it was like one big like sorority house in there. We had such a good time. And so I was working
You still keep in touch with all of them?
on Facebook here and there.
Yeah.
Sorority house, right? There's some good moments and then there's some like not so great moments.
Yeah. Right.
And you're dealing with girls. Oh, and then so her living room was so huge. She also cut it in half, and we had 2 Italian, like authentic Italian guys living in there, and they would cook us fresh Italian pasta. Like in heaven.
Man.
And he could only speak Italian, and Spanish and Italian are very similar. So he would tell me about his girl problems, and I would kind of dissect what he was saying in Italian, and I would speak back to him in Spanish, and we would have a full-on conversation.
So you know Spanish?
I know a little bit, un poquito, sí. And so...
to assume that I knew what you just said is, I know
a little bit.
I'm from West Texas, so yeah, I got it. I understood it. But
so then I worked in face-to-face fundraising, and these nonprofits, a lot of people don't realize it, they hire salespeople for you to donate to their organization, because a lot of people don't know these organizations exist, or wouldn't even wake up thinking, like, let me donate. So basically, like, imagine you're walking out in the streets of like New York, and you have those people that are coming up to you like, hey, that was me in Sydney, Australia, getting people to give me their credit card information on the spot to become a member, to donate to Amnesty International for like $35 a month. And I was so good at it that they then paid for me to travel to do it in other cities, which I was grateful for, because then I got to see a lot of Australia on the company's dime, because like a flight to Perth, which is on the other end of Australia, was almost $800 round trip, which I did not have to do that. So I got to go to Perth, to Melbourne, to Adelaide, a whole bunch of cities, Byron Bay, up the Sunshine Coast, and I got to hang out and party. Job was like 9 to 5, and then hit your goals. And then you got to like hang out and party. Like, it was the best. And I got to travel. So had a good time doing that. Left that job. And then I ended up working at a custom tailor-made suit company in retail. And that was nice because I got to work inside in air condition, and I got to help fancy people.
So like bespoke suits and all that stuff.
Bespoke suits, yeah. And they gave me benefits. So
that was the first time for that.
Yeah, that was like, oh.
You didn't have benefits at HEB?
Yeah, I had benefits at HEB.
You would,
They had really good benefits there.
It's a good company.
It's a great company. I definitely recommend. And so then the last month that I had left there before my visa was up, I didn't have to work because I had 2 weeks saved up for vacation pay. And then the other 2 weeks I had money saved up that I could keep. So the last month there I didn't work, and I just traveled and had fun.
So the last month there was just a travel party in Australia.
Yeah.
And then you come back to the States.
Yeah. So I was making less money in Australia, but I was living life. I was buying designer. I like fashion. I was buying designer stuff, and I was not worried about money in my bank account, because every time I looked, it was there. Now, I did have one little hiccup. And I forgot about this, and my mom caught one of my podcasts, and she was like, you did ask for help, and I did wire you some money. So my parents
does your dad know she did that?
No, she's told me specifically not to tell my dad. But my dad found out on that podcast when this was like 2-3 years ago. And they also found out that I did not graduate that time they showed up to my graduation at U of H in 2009, that I technically graduated in 2014.
Who says you can't learn anything on podcasts?
Right.
They're learning who their daughter is.
Yeah. Yeah, Now I keep it real because I don't have to lie.
Right.
It's like I don't have anything to hide, and I'm successful, so you can't really But back then, if I'm taking money from them, then I do owe them an explanation. So anyways, my mom did help me out one time. I have to give her credit for that. But yes.
Shout her out?
Huh?
You're not going to shout her out?
Shout out to my mom, Jay Malkan. Let's see. Yes. So then, I came back, and I was like, I got to bring this energy, this vibe to America, because I don't know if you know the phrase in Australia, it's no worries, mate. No worries. Everything's like, no worries. Like, just chill. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Like, we would go on lunch break, and they would drink a pint. And I'm like, we're drinking on the job, and they're like, oh, you Americans.
Yeah, that's generally everywhere in the world except America.
Except America, yeah. And I was like, oh shit, all right.
Also, everywhere in the world except America, when they go on holiday, they go on
holiday.
They
right?
leave, and
they're not worried about what's happening at work.
What's weird is there's this strange culture, and I feel it personally, that there's like, if I left for 2 weeks and didn't answer an email or a call, they would just, I don't need that guy. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Whether that's true or not, but that's what I feel like.
No, in Australia, you're on vacation. You're on vacation.
They go on vacation for like months.
I've never seen my mom take a true vacation. She was retired but she was high up at Capital One Bank, and oh, they worked her. They worked her. I never saw my mom like truly be able to just relax and enjoy her time off. And even when she took like a personal day or sick day, she was still like on the clock. And you know, watching my parents like that, I'm like, I don't want to live like that. That's not, if I want to live life on my terms, and I don't want it to be dictated by a higher up where they're making a shit ton more money than me, and I'm working my ass off like a dog just to make pennies, and I still can't even enjoy my time off that they have given me. That's part of the package. I'm like, no, can't do this.
I worked for a company one time that my family and I, we were going to Cabo, San Lucas for like,
Love Cabo.
we were there for like 8 days.
Yeah.
And I remember my manager telling me at the time, I'm not going to tell you what the company is because it's kind of a shitty story about them, but at the time he was like, man,
I'm
you
calling
guys,
them out.
you won't know. It was like, you guys have a great time and everything. And listen, we bought an international package for your iPad so that we could get in touch with you.
Oh, hell no.
And I was just like, okay, thanks.
Okay, thanks. I'm sorry I accidentally left it at the
Really
house.
appreciate that. And whatever. It's so, again, I didn't think anything about it because I just kind of how I was always raised.
Yeah.
So it wasn't anything that I thought anything about. But I do know that other countries take holidays.
Yeah, they take holidays and siestas.
And they do it for real.
Yeah. Because they understand the value of mental health and
Sure.
that you need that. But yeah, I wanted to bring that energy from Australia, and I didn't want to go back to what was the reason as to why I even went to
Right.
Australia. So I'm like, I got to live life differently, and what does that look like for me? And so maybe like a few weeks or a month, I don't really know, but a short amount of time since I'd gotten back, and I'm looking for a job.
And you came back to Houston.
Came back to Houston. Right. I'm looking for work, and my friend told me that she had an extra ticket to Brendan Bouchard. He is like this famous marketing guru, has clients like Oprah, Ariana Huffington, Tony Robbins. They're his client. He's been on the New York bestseller list like multiple times and never done a book tour. And so he is truly a marketing guru. If you don't know who he is, definitely look him up. I've learned a lot from him. So he does this academy that's there for a week long, and I think it's in Palo Alto, California. My friend told me, she was like, look, I have an extra ticket. All you have to pay for is your flight there. I have the hotel room covered. I was like, well, I can do that. Mm-hmm. So I flew there, and I went to the academy, the Experts Academy, and it was the best decision that I ever made, because there was like probably 700 people there from all over the world, 90 countries represented there. So like imagine college when you're in the library and you're studying, and it's like this buzz of like intellect. It's like the energy. It's like, you know, it forces you to study even if you don't want to. So like there'd be times where you didn't want to study, but you're like, let me go to the library and it will, or like, you know.
I'll take your word for it. Didn't go to the
yeah,
library.
well, like, or I don't want to work out, but let me, like, a home workout, it's not going to be as motivating, but let me go to the gym.
That's fair.
And then I'm going to be motivated by other people,
It's
right?
the vibe that's there.
It's the vibe.
Right? Yeah.
And I'm vibing with 700 entrepreneurs in all levels of their career, whether they
And you're not an entrepreneur this time.
I'm not I'm an entrepreneur in mindset, but not an entrepreneur like
In
legit.
practice,
In
right,
practice. And I'm like, okay. It was so much full of energy, and that's where I birthed my business. And I was like, what am I passionate about? I'm passionate about art, and I'm passionate about personal development. And let me marry those two together and start my business.
And this was when? What year?
This was in 2014. It was like maybe, I take that back. Now I'm like thinking about my timeline. I think it was like less than a year since I'd been back from Australia.
Okay. So 2014, 15 time frame.
Somewhere around there. Yep.
You found the Malkan group, or?
I founded the Malkan group. And I chose that name particularly because
it's your name.
Well, it's my name, but I knew that art wouldn't be my only stream of revenue.
Sure.
And I wanted to be able to have a generic LLC, like for legal reasons, so that I could put other entities underneath it.
Adding the word group to an LLC is always a strong move.
Yeah.
Because you can do that. You can diversify whatever you're doing.
Diversify.
You can pivot if you have to.
Right. And I don't know where I got that information, but it was somewhere put in there subconsciously, just being around other entrepreneurs and listening to podcasts and reading, and somewhere was put in there like.
Did you ever consider Murals by Malkan? That'd be a fantastic name.
Murals by Malkan. I like that. I may do that.
I just thought of that.
No, I like that. Can I have it, or do I need to pay you for the idea?
Depends on how successful it becomes.
All right. Well, set your terms now, because like.
It's recorded that I came up with that. So you found the Malkan group.
Yeah.
And you tell your parents, "This is what I'm doing," or no? You just
I don't remember. I may or may have not told them. I honestly do not remember. Yeah, because I just remember them not really being so supportive when I wanted to go to school for art. I think eventually I learned, is like, let me keep some things to myself, because I don't want certain energies like infiltrating my mindset and bringing me down. So let me keep some things to myself and then just show them.
So how do you go? Because that's an interesting jump. You go from sales roles and things, and all of those things definitely prepare you for what you're doing now, without a doubt. The comfortable nature you have to talk to people about trying to bring their vision to a mural and those types of things, and then do that within a certain budget, which I would imagine sometimes gets those are probably pretty interesting conversations. How do you go from, you go to this conference, I guess it's a conference, you go to this conference, it's easy to get really energized at those things, and then you come back from them,
you got to keep
and you're
going.
like, here we go, and then a month, 2 months in, you're like, what am I doing? Did that ever happen, or did you come back and you were like, man, this is it, and we're going it? Tell me, kind of, when you say I founded this, what did that look like?
Yeah.
How did that look to you when you said, okay, I'm doing this now? What were your first steps? I mean, how did you even get started doing that?
I think, like, innately in my personality, it's like when I commit to something, like just internally to myself, I stay true to that. Like, being authentic and having integrity is very important to me. And it's not about to other people, it's to myself. So if like I make a promise to myself, I'm going to keep to it. So like in college, I like to taste a little bit of everything. I want to do pageants just to have a taste of it, to say I experienced to be a pageant girl. And I was not a very thin girl, and I had to be in a bikini on stage. And I was like, I'm going to have to lose some weight to at least place. And I wasn't worried about winning, but I wanted to at least place top 5. And I worked my ass off to eat healthy, and I have a huge sweet tooth. Like, I could eat a whole cheesecake by myself, no regrets.
Well, not if I'm there. She eat half of it.
Well, have you seen that Friends episode with like Chandler and Jennifer, and they're
So I didn't watch Friends.
Okay. Oh shit. Everything referenced.
I didn't watch Friends or Seinfeld. So if you try either one of those,
Seinfeld, I like it, but anyways, I was committed, and people doubted it, my commitment, but I wasn't trying to prove it to anybody else. I was proving it to myself, and I did. I looked great up on stage. Did not place, but I did win Miss Congeniality. So I won something, and I was happy with it.
I'm not surprised by that, frankly.
But I in my personality, that if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And I felt conviction about my business. I felt very strongly about it. I didn't know the how. And I think that's where a lot of people get caught up, right? It's like the how. And then you get caught up in the minutia of the how. And then that's where the doubt and the fear and all of that creeps in. And it's like, don't worry about the how. It's like, I tell this analogy to a lot of people. When you're driving in fog at nighttime, your headlights can only show you a certain distance. It doesn't show you from where you are till your ending point. Like, you just have to trust that your headlights are going to show you the road at every step of the way. And you just do it. You just take it one step at a time. And that's kind of how I took my journey in entrepreneurship or losing weight. It's like, what deposits are you going to make in your bank account, like in your health bank account, in your entrepreneurial bank account? What step are you going to make today? It's like even investing. No one's telling you, like, you can't just like all of a sudden make all this money. You got to make little deposits every day to get to that return on investment. And I wasn't worried about how I was going to get to be a successful entrepreneur and what that looked like. It's like, what step am I going to make today? Today, I need to file for an LLC. Today, I need to open up a business bank account. Like, those are the things. And I just took little steps, and then things revealed itself along the way.
So that's a great analogy actually with the fog. And you're right. You can't see very far.
The end goal.
And the danger there is moving too fast through that scenario.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And how did you guard against that? Or, I mean, you may not, listening to you describe your journey, you may have not even realized you were going too fast if you were, because you were not thinking about that. You were thinking about, here's the end point, and I'm going to get there eventually. It may look unconventional.
I wasn't worried if I was going to get there. It was just a matter of when I was going to get there. And my thinking in that way helped me to kind of shut out the noise. You know, a lot of people worry about the if. Like, what if I don't make it? And what if this happens? And what if? And I'm like, but what if the other side of it? There's two sides of the coin. Mm-hmm. You're putting the energy you're taking on the negative side is the same energy it's going to take on the positive side. And whatever you focus on will expand. Like, that's where the personal development part of comes in, right? It's like whatever you focus on will expand. You are your own self, like, prophecy or prophet. So like whatever you're worrying about in your mind, it's gonna come true. So like, why don't you focus on the things that you want to happen? And it's like, and then it's like all this other it's like, you are worthy of success. You do deserve these things. You know, and it's like, it's all these other stuff that come into play of being successful. And I don't think like a lot of people talk about the mindset. That's a huge part. Your mindset plays a huge role, I think, in first starting the journey and then being successful. Like, your mind has to be right.
Where did you get that mindset, do you think? Because if you listen to the story, you know, it's very traditional Indian family. You talk about your dad telling you you were old when you were 27. Mm-hmm. And 100%, I have to believe that when you were being raised in that environment, you weren't not always a free spirit, I wouldn't imagine. So
it was always a free spirit, just did not let it was not unleashed.
But when it was unleashed, when little glimpses of it, I would imagine it was very much received, not poorly, but like,
no, it was received poorly.
That's cool, but we're going to send you to the convent.
Nope, that was received right? Poorly, not cool.
But how did you overcome that? You know, because that would be could be very limiting. How did you, when you became, you know, in your late 20s, early 30s, and you're like, no, I'm doing this, and it doesn't matter. I know that no one agrees with this, but where did that come from? I mean,
in college, when I started coming into my own and started having different views and perspectives than my parents, because I was a goody two-shoe. Like, I mean, you asked my high school classmates, they'd probably say I had a stick up my ass. You know, it was like very much a rule follower, and I didn't like go do anything bad or outside of the lines. My best friend at the time, she was part of the cool club, so I got to go to some of the cool parties, but they'd be like, what is she doing here? Oh, that's her friend, that's why, you know. Like, I didn't drink or anything. My first drink was at 21 in college. And my parents
Baylor, I'm shocked.
At Baylor, keg stand too, everything.
The first one.
I was good at it too.
Right out of the gate.
14 seconds.
14.
That's pretty good.
It's not bad.
And even with my parents, I did as they said. I didn't fight back with them. And then so when I went to college and I started getting my own viewpoints and I started kind of growing into my own, and it was combating my parents, I was living a double life essentially. I was one way with my parents and family because I didn't feel comfortable to show who I really am, and then I really am who I, was to the rest of the world. It got exhausting. I was dealing with depression. I remember telling my mom, it's like, something's not right. I don't feel good, and I need to talk to a therapist because I'm having just really not nice thoughts about myself. And so I knew something was wrong. That therapist did not help me. No offense, she was a white female and did not understand the Indian nuances and cultures, so certain advice that she was giving me was not applicable. So I was on another journey of finding the right therapist, but I don't know, it just one day clicked. It was like, you can't live like this. Like, you can't be this way at home and this way. And it's like, you need to figure out who you are, because I also saw stats that suicide rates are high amongst first generation Asian Americans. And I'm not talking about India. I'm talking about all of Asia. So China, like Pakistan, India, all the Asian countries, the first generation here, has the highest suicide rates in adolescents because they have to live a double life, because they're straddling the Asian traditional way of living and then the American way of living. And it's two different ways of living.
Oh, it could not be more different.
Just certain, there's just so many differences there. And it gets overwhelming for a first generation to overcome that. Especially if parents are so traditional and are not able to be flexible and realize, well, we are in America now. And you chose to come here and bring us here and raise us here. And you're going to have to deal with the nuances that we are growing up in. Like, this is the culture we're growing up in. And you chose that. You may not have understood that this was it, but this is it. And this is where we are now. So my mom was good at that. Dad, not so much. He struggled with that. But I just knew that I needed to be who I am and accept it. Now, what that looked like then and what that looks like now is very different. Was I really being who I was, and was I really not caring about what other people thought? To an extent, but not to where I am right now. But that's also, and I'm sure I may say the same thing when I'm in my 60s and be like, you really don't give a fuck about what other people think. You think you knew now, in your 40s, but you don't in your 60s. So I think that was it. I made the decision. I was like, I don't care. This is who I am, and I want to live life by my own terms, and I will not let anyone dictate that and take away my peace and happiness, even if it's my parents.
I think that's a great place to get to, and a lot of people struggle to get there just because they feel like if they do that, they're going to reveal themselves to be a disappointment, and nobody wants that. And so I think that's fantastic that you're able to get there. You several times now you've mentioned your mental approach to, if I'm doing it, I'm doing it. It's just getting done. Mm-hmm. Has that ever hurt you, where you said, man, I'm doing this and it was the wrong thing to be doing, but you stayed with it so long, you stayed with it long enough that you were like, shit, that was a detriment. I shouldn't have done that.
At the moment, I cannot remember anything, but I'm sure yes. I'm very headstrong. I've learned over time that sometimes I move too fast and I'm bulldozing, and I need to first assess the situation. And there's a time and place when you need to go at lightning speed, and there's times where you need to sit back and kind of assess everything. And I've learned that through just becoming more mature and self-aware of this is how I approach things. So I'm sure in the beginning I probably did do things like that. I just don't have the mental space to remember it.
Right. And you're an extremely positive person too, so I'd imagine those experiences probably get purged relatively quickly.
Yeah, I'm sure if I went to did therapy and they did the whole hypnosis thing, some shit would come out.
Well, I'm also not an Indian therapist, so I can't do it today. I'm sorry. When you founded the Malkan Group, again, you said you were very strategic in the name of it, which was awesome, and I understand completely. So you could pivot. What were the core, this is how this is going to pay me? This is how Malkan Group this is how I'm going to get money doing this. What were the things that you identified that you're going to do? Obviously, art was one of them. Yeah,
I was thinking about just painting on canvas, selling paintings, and then doing team building, because I had so much corporate experience. And then at one point, I believe this job was after I got back. Yeah, it was after I got back from Australia. I was working for a leadership company doing sales for them, selling leadership programs to corporations. And we primarily targeted the collision industry. And so...
Why was that?
I think it was a small business, and I think he got one or two really good clients like Caliber Collision and a few big companies. And then it just kind of expanded. So then
just a proven vertical, and he just stayed in it.
Yeah. And then so other companies well, we want this leadership training, and it just grew from there. So we took other companies, but we predominantly were focusing on the collision industry. And there would be times where I sometimes would help facilitate the leadership training, and it was just very impactful for me. And so I knew I was good at that. I knew I was good at sales. I knew how to speak the lingo in the corporate world. And so I'm like, this is what I'm good at. So why not merge all of that together? And I like art, and do all the team building stuff that I ever either I attended or facilitated was not very tangible. There's not a lot of kinesthetic activities. It's very much philosophical. They're telling you're
Everyone
writing down
leaves
notes.
with ideas, and that's about it.
It's how do I apply this? So I'm like, why don't I use art, and it's hands-on activities, and it's real time that they can then take with them, and it's an anchor. And so that's where I started, and that's where I was going down. I had a business coach who's helping me put my business plan together. And he introduced me to his friend who specialized in murals. This was in like 2016, 2015, 2016. I was like, yeah, let's do it. So I met up with this man, and he had like over 20 years of experience in murals and was showing me the game. He basically showed me everything. And then I also didn't have like an ego. So I was like, whatever you want me to do, even if I wasn't getting paid, like clean toilets, wash the paintbrushes, I'll do it, because I wanted to learn. And I think that's where like a lot of people I notice today, because I get a lot of people asking me, well, can I come and learn from you? And my answer is always yes, because I want to pay it forward to what he did with me. And the ego and the lack of initiative, it's like astounding. But they want the handout, and I'm like, you got to work for it. I worked for it. I'll still work for it. If I find I have another project coming up and I'm working with a muralist that's more experienced than I am, and they were the project, the people that are putting on the project, essentially it was just supposed to be me, but this wall is grand and they feel more comfortable with someone who has a little bit more experience. They were kind of worried that I would say no, and I'm like, no, let's do it, because he can teach me some tricks. Like, sure. I don't have an ego around proving myself that I'm bigger than what I really am. Like, yes, I don't have experience in doing like a 50, 100-foot wall. Like, there are going to be some things that I don't know, and I don't want to fuck it up, and I don't want to learn on the job and cost my profit margin and their profit margin and their money. So yes, bring on that higher name. It's going to be good all around, because my name's going to be attached to that person's name, and I get to learn some things free without, hey, can I pick your brain over lunch? You know, like, right. It's a win-win situation.
Yeah, I guess I didn't consider like so I have a simple brain, and I think, okay, well, if you're painting a wall that size, well, you just scale up whatever you'd put on a canvas and put it on the wall. What's the problem?
No, it's two
just
different
get a projector
things.
And project it on the wall and paint
Yeah,
over that.
I get a lot of people who are painters or artists on canvas, and then they want to help me on murals, and it's a total ball game. Like, the details that you're focusing on the canvas, those don't translate. So you're wasting your time on a big wall, because the viewer is not going to even see that. And you're worried about some minute detail. No one's going to see it. So, but yeah, I worked for this guy. I learned everything. I asked to do everything. I asked to go to all the meetings. Like, I was attached to him because I want to learn every facet of the business. Like, I know business intuitively. I am a businesswoman. I have an entrepreneurial mindset. But I needed to learn the lingo within the art business. And I needed to...
How do you interact with customers? How do you negotiate the price?
What does that look like? Yes, the conversation, the script. And so, yeah, I was with him all that time. And then I branched out on my own in 2019. So in that, I was in an abusive relationship. It was psychologically abusive. And it was with the mentor. And that was the reason why I was so open with his business, was the carrot dangling, like, I got you. And he knew that's what I wanted. So anyways, we have a child together, and my son is now 5. But a year in, while I was pregnant, I started to see his true colors, and I was like, this is not healthy, and I need to figure out a way to get out. But I was scared and kind of teetering. Like, there would be good moments. So I'm like, oh, he's good. And then, oh my God, he's the devil. And then, so when my child was close to a year old, I was like, I cannot do this anymore. And my son cannot be raised like this, because then he will turn out like that. And I refuse for my son to be that. So I jumped, and I was like, I got to go. And I was homeless, sleeping in my car, because by then my parents had disowned me, because was with someone that was not of the same culture. And this is my dad, not my mom. So of the same culture. And I had a baby out of wedlock. So I was not married. And parents did not agree with that decision. They're like, you're disowned. So yeah, I had some friends who said that they knew what was happening. And they're like, if you ever need a place, we got you in Baby Zen. And it was around Christmas time. So people had their own shit going on. They didn't come through, sleeping in my car. And God put this girl's name, Stephanie. Shout out to Stephanie. She's under my phone as Stephanie Angel because she's my angel on earth. But said, call Stephanie. And I'm like, but I haven't talked to Stephanie in a whole year. Just call Stephanie. I call her. I'm kind of telling her what happens. I didn't even finish my story. Didn't even get to do the ask. And she was like, get your ass over here.
Sure.
Bring babies in. I got you. She was also a single mom with 4 children and living in a 2-bedroom apartment. So definitely no room for me or babies in. But she let me stay there for over a week. Finally, my parents did let me in. So in that process, there are 7 forms of abuse. A lot of people just immediately go to physical or sexual. But there's psychological, emotional, financial, mental. I know there's 7. And so there was also financial abuse because all my money was attached to this man. And I didn't have any money of my own. Because in my head, I'm thinking traditionally like my parents. My parents share everything. All the names on everything. There's no like, this is my money and this is your money. And I make it's like everything goes together. And that's just how I was raised when I was, with my parents. And so I'm thinking I'm naive. I'm like, and my parents have always warned me. They're like, you're so trusting and so good and so naive that there are bad people. And I'm like, oh, you're jaded. Like you're just a pessimist. I'd never encountered anyone like so evil and so insidious. And so I'm trusting of this man thinking we're building a life together. So I had no money. I'm trying to figure out what to do. I went through all of this to start my business, learned all of this, and now I'm down. And I had never imagined my life to be in that space where I'm a single mom with no money and no support or help.
And I want to start a business.
And I was like I'm just it's like the airplane is just lifting off and it's like, psych, and get back on the ground. And you just made it lift off. And I'm like, fuck. And I had to make a decision. Do I go back to corporate America because I need to be mature and realistic and provide for my son and I? Or do I pursue this dream that I worked so hard to get to? And what do you do? And so I was straddling both. So one thing about me, when I was kept transitioning every 2 years, I would go on an interview and I would get the job on the spot. Like I never had to wait for a call back. And my dad always worked for small businesses as well. But so when he got laid off, because it's a small business, things happen, you get laid off. He's gotten laid off many times. He'd have to go on another interview, but he'd have to do certain callbacks and certain jobs he wouldn't get. And he would always ask me, he's like, how do you do it? I'm like, Dad, it's going to sound cocky. But I go in there as if I imagine that I've already got the job. Like it's already mine. And I already act and I speak as if it's my job. And that's how I interact with. I don't feel like I'm getting interviewed. I already have the job and I'm just telling them I've got the job subconsciously.
We're working out some details.
Yeah, we're just working out some details. Yeah. He was like, I don't think he like fully understood what I was like saying. But this time around, I couldn't land anything. Like nothing. I would go on 2-3 interviews, and this was all foreign to me. I'm like, this is weird. Don't go on a second interview. They didn't call me back. They don't want me. Like, this is weird to me. Yes. And I took that as a sign. It's like, because this is not what you're supposed to be doing. You need to pursue your art. That is your calling. That's what you need to do. And I was getting like little gigs here and there because I was active on social media. So just enough to like pay certain bills, like car note, cell phone, things like that. But not enough to be like, oh, I can afford a full on rent and electricity and all that stuff. And at the time when I was like homeless and I was calling like the Houston area women's shelter and all these shelters, because I was not physically or sexually abused, they were like, we don't have space for you. We're limited on space and housing. And I was like, man, I need help. Like I don't have any support or any financial support.
And not taking anything from those forms of abuse, but the help you needed was just as real as the help they needed.
Yeah. And it's something that the system is also working on. That's a whole other subject. And so I was still fighting for help because then living at home wasn't healthy either because of just dealing with my dad, whole other situation. I'm like, I didn't go from that household to this household, even though my dad's not yelling at me or doing anything, but him also ignoring me and my child is just as hurtful.
Right.
And so I was introduced to another organization called Daya, and they help for domestic abuse victims, primarily in the South Asian sector. And I told them my story, and they're like, you don't have anything to prove. You are definitely you were abused. You are getting abused. We got you. We have financial support. We're going to get you an apartment to get out of there. And so they paid for my apartment for 8 months.
Wow.
And they said that all that money that we're paying, you need to save that money because after 8 months, we're not supporting you there, like financially. And I was still pursuing. So I moved into my parents in January 2019. March 2019 was when it clicked and said, you know what? You can't have 1 foot in corporate and 1 foot in entrepreneurship. You need to make a decision. And that's not for everybody. This is just for me. Because there are some people who are entrepreneurs who work 9 to 5 and they love it. I know successful entrepreneurs. I wouldn't consider them entrepreneurs, but like have their own businesses. I think that word gets too like stretched out. Like I'm an entrepreneur, but you have a 9 to 5. It's a different mindset to me personally. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do my art. So I was bringing in enough just to pay my simple bills, not enough for rent. Moved out in August of 2019 into my own apartment. And I was bringing in enough money then to be like, okay, let me stack up this money because I got to pay for rent. And that's when also mentally everything just, because I wasn't in fight or flight mode anymore.
A little bit of breathing room.
I had a breathing room. I had my own space. I felt safe in this space now. I didn't feel safe in my parents' home. And everything came crashing down. And I was like, all of it just hit. It's like, oh shit, what did I go through? This is a lot of shit. And I'm a single mom and I got to provide. And I dealt with some bullshit with this man. And I did not want any noise. And so I went dark for 3 months. And a lot of people, social media is an illusion. I didn't get on social media. I was silent.
People only post their highlights, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I understand it. And I'm talking about business wise. Like it is an aid. It helps me grow my business. But do I absolutely need it? No. Me personally, no. And I went silent. I went dark, called my friends and I said, hey, look, I need to go dark. I need to be within myself. I need to self-reflect and I need to heal. And I can't do that with noise. And I didn't own a TV. So I literally was in silent mode. And I did answer phone calls here and there for business, of course, because I had to bring in money. But was I on social media posting? Nope. Wasn't on social media at all. Didn't talk to anybody except when I had to have my son every other week. And I did that for 3 months. And it was the best thing I ever did because I then felt somewhat on a better, like I was somewhat healed. And I just was in a better space mentally. And I was like, okay, now I am energized and I'm ready to go, like full on, like 100 miles an hour. I'm ready to go on my business. It's the best thing I ever did. And then I never looked back. And so in 2020, I got 3 6-figure deals back to back to back. I think I grossed over
during COVID, you were picking up mural
paintings?
Yeah,
so get this also. 2019, just rebuilt myself.
Because I'm listening to your timeline. I'm like, okay, so it's August, you get your place, and then 3 months dark, and that puts right in.
And then COVID hit, and I'm like, fuck, I just lifted off again.
Right. WTF,
and I'm like,
man.
what am I supposed to do? And my mindset is always service. Like, just give back. So I started posting, I started hosting like free, like painting with a twist, have you been to painting with a twist?
Yeah. Like,
or Peanut's palette or something you drink and you're painting, whatever the instructor. Yeah. I did that for free on Facebook.
Remind me to show you one I did after
I'd love
this.
To see it. I can't believe you have it still.
I have a picture of it.
Oh, okay. Wait, dope.
I have a picture of the picture.
But do you have the actual painting? Nobody ever keeps the actual painting.
I do. I did. I think.
But is it in the closet or is it hung up somewhere?
It may not have made the move with us.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I did have it for a long time.
I started offering free virtual paint classes, especially to the parents who are like, what am I supposed to do with my kids? Like, I'm working and I don't have time to homeschool.
That's a brilliant idea.
And I just did it. And I said, whatever you want to tip me is fine. I didn't make a lot of money from it, but then I started getting a lot of commissions from it.
I bet.
Oh, you're an artist. Can you commission? I need you. Because then a lot of people started focusing, like the home improvement industry grew because you're at home and then you're starting to look at everything.
Like, man,
I could paint this and I could do this. Yeah. So then that's when I started getting a lot of commissions, painting commissions. And that kept me afloat during COVID, and then I would get one off, mural commissions here and there because there were no people in the building, so I could go in there by myself and go paint. And that's how I survived COVID. Was like, there's no point in me worrying. Like, there's no return on investment in me worrying. That's not what I want. So I'm like, what do you want? I want to be successful. I need to thrive. And it's a necessity right now because I got to provide for my son and I. It's not like I was getting money from anybody. And I'm specific, anybody, no money coming in from no one. And so I'm like, it's only me. And, I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let me give back. Let me start just doing it that way. And then it's just started coming in. And I think it taught me to be more creative and running my business. And it definitely opened up my eyes on how to utilize the internet and just like my website in a different way than I originally thought for my business. Because I'm just thinking in person, me painting. But what are other ways that I can keep my business alive and increase different revenue streams? Because I'm going to be 70, 80, and do I want to be on a scissor lift at that age painting a mural? No, I'd rather be on the sands of Tahiti drinking a mojito, have a fine ass man massaging my back, and someone else painting my mural. So,
and you would probably critique the shit out of them.
Oh hell yeah!
It.
I have learned, because I am a huge critiquer, because I critique myself, and it's not coming from a place to make anyone feel bad, but it's like, let's go. We can do better.
Yeah.
But I've had to learn delivery is very important. So I keep working overtime with my delivery.
Might be the most important.
It's the most important.
As an artist, how do you see the AI stuff affecting your sort of, I don't see it maybe murals as much, but.
I mean, there are printers out there that are printing murals.
No kidding.
Yeah. Like murals. Mm-hmm.
Because it's really interesting. Let's say, and not that you have it, but let's say you blow up like Van Gogh style.
Yeah.
Literally type it in, generate a picture in the style of Amy Malkan.
Yeah.
And it'll generate one that you would paint, and it's amazing.
And then it'll print and paint it out for you. Yeah.
In minutes.
In minutes. Yeah. I think it just differentiates like the end person who wants it, right? Do they want the original that's hand painted, or do they want the AI? And yes, will I lose a few customers? But like, this is where the abundance mindset comes into play. It's like, there's so much to go around. Like, I'm not going to focus on the people who want to be cheap and get the AI generated ones. Sure, go for it. You're not my ideal client
feels like
anyway.
A direct attack when you say it like that.
But I'm like, you're not my ideal client. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
So I don't care. And I use it. Like, I have used the AI to generate some of my designs. Like, I want to use it to aid me. I don't see it as competition.
The same thing. So, my corporate job is, a safety, vice president of safety for an oil company. Mm-hmm. So writing policies, procedures, those types of things. So the other night, I was coming home from jiu-jitsu, and I was sitting in the Whataburger drive-thru, because that's how you reward yourself.
Yeah.
After a workout is a shake. Right. And I was like, let me just see how good this Chat GPT thing is. So I just type in standard operating procedure for an oil field drilling rig, mm-hmm. and hit go. And this thing generated a pretty legit procedure.
Impressive.
In almost no time at all. And I told my wife, I was like, it's not perfect, but it's good enough. I could take it and tweak it here or there, add some things, take some things out. And what would take me hours to write, or potentially days, I'm done in an hour.
Yeah.
So huge productivity save.
Yeah.
But I was just curious from an artist's perspective. And what made me even think about it, I was listening to Joe Rogan the other day, and he brought it up. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, I hadn't even thought about that. And so I was just kind of curious your thoughts on that.
I think it comes down to mindset, right? Mm-hmm. There are going to be some artists who are like, it's taking away my work and da-da-da-da. And it's like, it just comes down to mindset, and then where you are in the level of your...
I also kind of look at it like it could end up being its own genre of art.
Yeah.
In some ways.
But this is the problem with the art, and even for some writers, is that it's taking your intellectual property and using that, like twisting a little bit and then using it. So it's like, but I was like, in this day and age, like, what is original? like, what is original? Because it's all derived subconsciously or consciously from something else that you've received messaging from. Like, we're constantly getting downloaded so much information from so many different entities. Like, that's why I say with the whole Malkan group, was it me originally thinking that? No, it's somewhere. It came from somewhere, and I don't know where it came from, the original information, but it came from something. So
that's true.
What is original?
A couple of things you said that are I think should resonate with people. One is just that servant mindset. If you just give back, and there's never been a time in my life that I've given back that I've regretted giving back.
Yeah.
And so if nothing comes of it, but something always does.
Yeah.
So I think that was a great approach. And then that abundance mindset, I think, is also important. It's just realizing, look, it's not finite. There's plenty of stuff out in the world.
I have a group that I bring together just for female creatives. Doesn't matter if you do it like you're creative as a hobby, or you're in pursuit of starting a business, or you're a successful entrepreneur. It doesn't really matter. It just, as long as you identify as a female and a creative, you're invited to be in this group. And I share a lot of information. I share a lot of like RFPs, requests for proposals, or requests for qualification projects to them. I share lots of just like insider information that most people be like, oh my God, I can't believe you shared that, because like now you're introducing competition. I'm like, there's so much to go around. And I said, whatever is meant to be is meant to be, and we can all rise together. Like, we don't have to like, you know, be secretive and hinder, you know, another person. And right now I'm in this like growth mode. I'm booked all the way up until April. And in my industry, it's like you go through ebbs and flows. And I know when my downtime is. Usually Q4 during the holidays is my downtime typically. And then
not a bad time to have downtime.
No, I don't mind it. But usually around Q1, 2, and 3 are usually my growing modes, depending. And I'm right now in huge growth mode, and I've just noticed like the decrease of engagement with my friends, like in terms of like on social media, liking, commenting, phone call, text. And it's like crazy, because it's like, this is my season. Celebrate with me, because I celebrate your season.
You're saying their lack of engagement on
with
your
me.
stuff.
Yeah, because I'm in my season right now, and I've just
what
noticed
do you think
that
drives that.
I think it's just jealousy or envy, or them wanting to be in that season too. But I'm like, there are moments that I can point out where it was your season. I was nowhere, and I didn't have anything going on. But I celebrated your season. Because your season doesn't take away my season. Those projects that you have, I'm not a fit for those projects anyway. It's like, why can't I not celebrate
other
you?
artists.
Other artists, primarily other artists, yes. Because like, if it's you and me, we're in different industries, so you don't care if I'm being successful. Like, it's like, go, good, yeah. You know, but yeah, I just noticed that it just goes to the abundance mindset. I was telling this to someone, when you truly do believe in abundance mindset, you truly believe that there's no competition, and you truly are a woman's woman, then you would celebrate another woman's successful season. Like,
yeah, because you'd want that.
Because you want that. It's like, hell yeah. And bring me to the top too. I'm like, I'll take you with me.
Sure.
You know, and like one of the things that I pride myself on is that I want to hire other female assistants. Primarily. Now, sometimes that's not a fit, and I do have to hire a male assistant, but
have to hire a male.
I have to. I want to promote females, but I have some good, really, really good male assistants that like, they're worth every penny. Yeah, I know.
It's funny when you said have to. I was like,
I have to. I'm very intentional about my word choice too, so I do. I have to.
Oh, I don't suspect that you're not unintentional with the way that you say things, which brings me to my next question.
Yeah.
And you mentioned this kind of in passing. Did you believe that the term entrepreneur sort of gets watered down? And I wanted you to kind of explain a little bit more detail what you mean by that. When you said, you know, a person that has a 9-to-5, they still call themselves an entrepreneur. Help me understand, where you think that word has kind of gotten used inappropriately, the word entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think like, I don't know, maybe in the last like 5, 7, 8 years, like the word entrepreneurship has like blown up, and it's like the cool thing to do. But I don't think half the people that use it really know what an entrepreneur really is. Because for me, my definition of an entrepreneur does not have a safety net. Like, you are working your ass off to build up whatever company you're building up from the ground up. You may come from money and all that. That's fine. But you don't have like a safety net.
Yeah, it is your source of income.
That is it. right? And it's a different way of being. It's a different way of moving. It's a different way of decision making. If you work a 9 to, and I'm not knocking the people who have successful business, but if you're working a 9 to 5, you have a safety net you can fall on, because if you didn't make goals for your company, you still have income coming in every 2 weeks, and you have benefits that you can rely on. And this even goes for people who are married. That's another safety net, because your spouse can carry you if you don't make goals. And I don't knock those people, but you're taking away all the hard work that I have put in. I have no fucking safety net. It is just me. And so you're taking that away from me by calling yourself an entrepreneur, which I think is a very prestigious title. So even like artists or creatives kind of get like, I don't say I'm a better artist than anyone. I am a great businesswoman, and that's why I'm successful. That does not mean that my art is like this, like the best art out there. I make good art. I'm not denying that, but I'm also a good businesswoman to know how to monetize on my skill level. Because there are artists that I think are better than me, but haven't learned how to monetize their art and their skill, and they haven't made it successful. So I think like that's also like people are like, well, I'm an artist too. And I'm like, I'm not denying you're an artist. You're an artist too. But I am a professional artist who makes a living off of my art.
Which is terrifying to me to think about. But I do agree with your definition wholeheartedly. I've had people that I've interviewed for this show say that because I've started a podcast, it's gotten some traction and whatever, that makes me an entrepreneur. And I'm like, well, I mean, I make a really healthy living with my job that gives me the time
Oil and
to
gas
do
money.
this. Yeah, well, it's good till it's not.
Right.
But to your point, I do agree that if you're 1 foot in, 1 foot out, you can't be good at two things like that at once. You're gonna devote the time to the thing that's going to potentially be the sure thing if you're sort of like that. So
I think you can be good at both things, but do you deserve the title of entrepreneur?
I disagree. I don't think you do, and
I don't
because
think you do either.
it's
a coveted title.
Well, it's also like, to your point, it's become very chic.
Yeah.
And it's anyone can sort of jump into that if they want, but the dedication's not there. I agree. You shouldn't have that title. You don't get to have that title.
It is what it is. But you know what? If you want to take it, whatever. I peep it though.
I see you.
I see you.
I see what you're doing over there.
Uh-huh.
So now you're just killing it.
Killing it.
Killing it.
I'm not killing it. I'm getting there. I'm figuring out different ways to create different streams of revenue for my business outside of me physically having, because I'm still in a way exchanging my time for money, because I have to physically be there painting, right? So how do I make more money without having to exchange my time? And so I'm in the process of creating downloadable templates for creatives. Like, it's all the corporate side of it, right? Like, what does an invoice template look like? A contract, a budget template. How do we budget out a mural? How do you price one out? That's always like the number one question. How do you price it out? And so creating these templates that they can download. I'm in the process of creating a sales script. It's my expertise. I am a salesperson by nature. So what
specifically tailored around
for creatives, like when you are dealing with a potential client who wants to buy a mural, what does that conversation look like?
Because a true creative's like, I don't know, let me just paint it for you, pay me what you want.
They're like, I don't know how much it costs. Or if, say, the potential client pushes back and says, well, I only want to pay this much, it's like, how do you talk back to that? Like, how do you stand up for yourself and negotiate back? Because it's sometimes there are going to be clients where you do have to negotiate with.
Yeah, and if you're just starting out, the tendency, especially as a creative, can be, I don't want to lose this work too, right?
Yes, and they're willing to subsidize their work for subsidizes through exposure, or maybe they are working a 9 to 5, so the 9 to 5 covers the leftover. And what I tell, we're a community. Our industry is unregulated, meaning that there's no industry standard on our price. You will get, if you were sourcing a muralist, you can get one that's emerging muralist who will charge you way under, bid you. And then you can meet a mid-level, and then you can meet another artist who will charge you on the very high end. And you're like, $400 to $50,000. No lie. That is a huge price gap.
For the same mural.
Yeah, that's weird.
That is a big price
and
gap.
So I tell other artists, in order for us to close that gap for ourselves, And to be a win for potential clients, we need to be open about our pricing to each other, say what we charged to each other.
That's a hard,
which a lot of people don't want to share.
tackle.
I'm very open to share that. I don't really care. And then 2, it helps us elevate our pricing, because the ones that are undercharging or doing it for free, then that client thinks that that's the standard,
That's
that
the
other
rate.
people will do that. And then they'll come across me and they'll be like, she's a bitch. Like, because I'm not going to work for free. And so, yeah, we all have to work as a community together as well in that aspect. But in terms of revenue stream, all these like downloadables that they can buy from me. And then that's like, easy money one time.
Yeah, it's pretty passive
And
once
then
you get it built.
passive. And then I'm putting together a course for creative entrepreneurs, like from A to Z of starting from idea, concept, starting, and how do you get to be a thriving creative business. So putting together a course that they can take at their own pace and time.
I think that's critical, especially for creatives. And you're not the first person I've had on the podcast that is an artist of some kind or works with artists. And hands down, every single one of them has said people are great at their art, but they're terrible business people. Mm-hmm. And so if you can somehow provide tools or resources, given your experience as a business person and a creative, maybe like an alpha creative.
Yeah. I mean, I want to help other people. Like, we can all be successful. And I want to help other people to know that there is another reality out there. If you're not happy in the reality that you're in, you can create a reality that you're happy in. It's possible. I've done it. And all this stuff that I'm saying or preaching or whatever sharing is because I've lived it and I've experienced it. It's not like theoretical or philosophical. I've actually experienced this.
Yeah, it's been in practice, tested, and worked.
And worked.
So now that you're successful, your business is doing well.
I'm not successful yet. I'm thriving. I don't feel like I'm
Fine.
successful yet. Yes.
I'll tell you that I feel like you are, but that's just my outside looking in. So you're thriving. You're able to make rent and do the things that you want to do.
I bought a house, actually.
That's outstanding.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a big thing.
It's a huge thing.
That's
yes,
an
I bought
awesome
it last year. Definitely had a whole crying moment. Yes.
It's worth crying over. I remember the first house I bought. When it sank in was when I was walking around. And I was like, I own that tree. It was the weird things like, that's my tree. I can cut that down if I want to. I'm not gonna, but
it's a weird feeling.
It is a weird feeling. And now I've owned several houses, and it doesn't. Every single one I've bought has felt weird for different reasons.
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe they're going to give me that much money.
Yeah, because you keep going up, right? It's not like you're buying the same house at that same price.
The last one we bought, I'm like, I can't believe they're going to give me that much money to buy this house.
Yeah.
That's
definitely,
suckers. Like, what are they? Have they met me? But you've achieved some station in life now, from backpacking across Australia to being homeless to now owning a home.
Mm-hmm.
Has that helped to sort of, because all of the factors that led to your being disowned still are there. Did that help mend some of those feelings with your family?
Oh yeah. So like after I left my parents, and my mom always kept in touch with me. She had to like hide and sneak to see me, and I never understood. I always thought my mom was weak. In that space and time, I always revered my mom. She's very hardworking, and just her story is also amazing. And I remember her telling me, like, when I moved out to the apartment, she was like, come home and visit. And I'm like, I will not come home until we actually address everything that has happened and transpired in this family, because I refuse to continue this toxic way of being where we sweep everything under the rug and act happy and everything's I cannot be fake anymore. It's not possible for me. And my mom was like, okay, fine. My dad's very like hot-tempered, hot-natured. He did agree. My dad is like hot-natured, but inside he's a soft teddy bear. And my dad has always shown up for me anytime I've needed him. And just in this moment in life, it was a slap in his face, because he had specifically told me that I was supposed to be, with a person within my culture, and that if I was to bring home anyone outside, that was grounds for being disowned. He had told me that in college when I dated my first boyfriend was not of the same culture. And only using the word race because we're all human race. Like, that's weird. So I had to have probably around 5 to 6, maybe more conversations, because we'd get somewhere where it was a touchy topic and my dad would get angry and walk off. And I'm like, we just got started.
Yeah.
Like how, and I told my dad, I said, look, you are free. Because one thing about my dad, his delivery sucks. He will not even take any critique about his delivery. His word choice sucks. There's also a language barrier because English is his second language. And we, as females, my mom, my sister, and myself, we would be some more sensitive than the others. We get caught up in his delivery and his word choice. And in that moment, I realized I had to put that aside and listen to what he's saying,
intent,
the messaging,
right?
the
Yeah.
intent. And I told my dad, I said, I'm not going to say anything. I give you full space to speak freely and use whatever words you need to use and say however you need to say about how you felt with the decision that I made in choosing to be with this man and having this baby out of wedlock. You are free, this full space. Nobody say anything. And go. And he did. And yes, there would be moments I would catch in my head, you're getting caught up in the wrong thing. Don't focus on that word choice. That's not how he meant it. You know that that's your dad. Like focus it. And what I heard was he was very hurt. He felt disrespected. He felt ashamed because of this choice that I made and then how society was going to view it, his society, his friend circle. And I felt his pain and I apologized. And there was no excuse around it. I said, I'm sorry. That's it. And because I gave him that space to do that, he was able to give me my space to say why I did what I did. And my dad was brought to tears and he apologized and he cried. And he's like, I'm so sorry he's like, I cannot believe I left you all alone in a car because we have a huge house and there's room for you and your son. And I'm sorry I treated you like that, you know?
That's beautiful.
And so me and my dad are very good. My family were very good. My dad and my son have a special relationship. And I'm grateful for my dad to be able to sit there as a grown man and humble himself and have an open, vulnerable, transparent conversation and had to go against all the things that, you know, he's grown up like believing in. And I'm grateful that I kept pursuing that. We have to have a conversation. We have to bring everything out and open. And I think that's all made us a lot closer together. Now fast forward, that was like what, 3-4 years ago. My dad, I'm like, did you not listen to our whole point of talk? Because then he'll be like, I don't want to talk about it. I'm like, Dad, we have to have these conversations. Like, you cannot, like, did you not learn anything from before? But, you know, it's just habit of his. But, yeah, we are good. And I'm glad that we were able to have those conversations and move forward.
That's a beautiful story. And it's just remarkable. I didn't come prepared for crying, so I have no tissues to give you.
That's all good.
And so that's on me, apparently.
And my dad also, you know, like once he started seeing the money coming, he's like doing the research. He's like, oh my God, did you see this like painting went for this much money and this mural cost this much? I'm like, there is money out there, Dad.
How exciting for you to actually get to see your dad become a bit excited about, you know, something that he probably would not have.
He wants to hear about every project. He wants to see all the videos. Or like each one, and he's like always astounded. He was like, whoa, you were on that scissor lift like 30 feet up high in the air. You're doing it's like, that's a lot of hard work. You went up and down those ladders in the sky. I'm like, yeah, Dad.
But you're not a guy. How are you doing that?
What do you
How are you able to be on a scissor lift?
Oh my God, some of these guys don't even know how to work the scissor lift. It's funny to watch them.
I made a
like,
mistake.
oh, step back.
I made a mistake one time. The church we used to go to when we lived up in Fort Worth, they had this big Christmas thing every year. My wife would always decorate a table. And when I say decorate a table, it was outlandish, right? She's extremely creative with decorating and everything. And she wanted to hang a Santa from a swing, big wooden swing from the rafters. I said, okay. And so I got on the scissor lift, and then every other person in there, every other woman that was decorating tables was like, oh, well, you're up there. And so I ended up on a scissor lift for about 3.5 hours that night, just driving around in there doing things. It was a blast.
But it's like a sense of power, right? Because you're like up high and.
Well, and I can do this and you can't.
Yeah.
Like it was something else.
I'm part of the rodeo committee for the cook-off. And we have to have a scissor lift because we have to, you know, decorate the tent up high. And I swear everyone, I don't fight. I'm like, I'm on a scissor lift. I don't really care to get on. It's like funny to watch people be like, I want to get on the scissor lift.
If you've never been on one, you're going to think it's going to flip over immediately. But they're incredibly stable.
Yeah, they're very stable. Yeah.
Especially if you get high enough, you can put the outriggers out. And
well, the thing is, like when you're on a cherry picker, that's a different thing.
Yes. Different
So
equipment.
those are, yeah, and it's a little, it is, and when you're up high, like 36 feet up high, it's a little, the wind, you're like, oh.
And you're also trying to paint.
And you're trying to paint. Yeah, it's like, it's a whole thing. Yeah. Yep.
I bet you never make it all the way up there and be like, shit, I forgot my whatever.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, my weak area is organization. And I'm like, I'm going to create a fucking list. I say this every time. And, I always forget something, and it's like me making like the loser trip to at Home Depot. I'm like, fuck, I forgot the tape. Like, because I'm so far out on the site. It's like I'm not going to drive all the way back to my place to go get. So I'm always making like last minute trips.
I think that's a creative
I'm gonna get
thing.
better one day.
I think it's a creative thing. My wife does that. She's so, in her mind, she sees the end product immediately before, and I don't.
Mm-hmm.
And so in a lot of ways, I'm trying to facilitate that. And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, the laws of physics can't happen. And she's like, it'll happen. And it does. It usually happens. But she's that way. She'll get in the middle of a project and be like, oh, I forgot whatever. And it's just because she's so focused on the end.
That's not my thing. It's just like, it's moving too fast, and I have multiple things going on. Like I have this, 5-year-old who's like, today I had to tell him, I'm like, Mommy's getting ready for work, and Mommy can't hear her brain think and hear you talk at the same time. And he knows now. It's like I need quiet. Okay, Mommy, I'll let your brain talk. I'll be quiet. I said, thank you, honey. And he'll be quiet.
What's
and
his
I'm
name?
like, his name is Zen. Well, his full name is Zenith, and the word is zenith. I heard it in a podcast while I was running when I was pregnant. And so I put it on the table for everyone. It's like, what do y'all, we thought we were having a girl. I was like, zenith. And they're like, ooh. And I'm like, no, it just sounds so strong. And the word zenith means like the apex, the culmination. And so I was like, I love that. It's a strong name. And then when we found out we're having a boy, they put it back. He was like, it was off the table. They vetoed it out. And then they were like, he was like,
Kind of like
what
that.
about zenith? It's masculine, and then we call him Zen, like peace and serenity. I was like, yeah, I mean, I
It's
trust the
the
word.
same word.
Yeah, I'm down. So his name is Zenith. So he's peacefully rising to the top of every occasion.
That's awesome.
Speak it into existence.
That can happen. I do believe in that.
Yeah, I do.
Being
yeah.
able to speak things into existence. For
It's
sure.
funny. All my friends, they tell me, they're like, you are a powerful manifester, because everything that I said I was going to do, like I've had some friends who've seen me in that journey from the bottom, and they're like, oh my God, I remember when you said you were going to make it as a full-time artist. You did it. I remember you said you were going to get a house. You did it. And I think it's like you meet so many people who do a lot of talking, and they're still like, I have so many friends that I left in the restaurant industry who said they were going to do things. They're still there. Like, a lot of people talk, but a lot of people don't put action to it. And like, I have these friends who are like, you said you were going to do that, and you did it. I'm like, psh, I wasn't just talking for the sake of talking. Like,
Yeah, and if in your story, the whole story is just a story of that. I said I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. So, where can people find more information out about your so you public speaking as well? So, where can people find out about all of the things you have going on?
I would say the best source would probably be my website, and it's my name, so www.amymalkan.com. And then my name is across the board for all social medias, for LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I am also an author. I did write a book on networking. I just see so many faux pas in networking, even to this day. And it goes back to what we talked about earlier about being servant-minded. So a lot of people think networking is about selling whatever they're selling, and it's not. It's about serving other people. And I went into networking and serving other people. Like, who can I connect you with? What do you need? And that's how I became a powerful networker and increased my sales, because they didn't see me as someone selling them what I was selling or shoving my business card in their hand. They were like, she was trying to help me out.
And just trying to create a genuine relationship with that person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
that's
think
great.
that also aided me in my business, because I made so many contacts in my various jobs of selling
Sure.
that I already had a vast network of people that were like, oh shit, she's an artist. Like, oh yeah, I need a painting. Or, oh, hey, I know someone who needs a mural. So it's
Right.
my business has
and if you
grown
know that person, then that's who I'm gonna call to do that.
solely off of referrals and social media. I have not done any outside sales. I do it once in a while, like when I'm driving around, I see new construction, and I'll go in and stop and say, hey, I do murals if you're looking to get murals done. Or if I see a building that's like screaming, it's crazy. I have a potential client right now, and I saw their building, their restaurant, and it just screamed murals. So I went in there. It was like a year ago, and I was like, hey, are y'all interested in getting murals? Like, and then they hit me up. They don't know that I did this. but he was a previous client at another restaurant. He was like, hey, you did a mural for me at this restaurant. We have this restaurant. Come out and see. And when I drove up to do the site visit, it's like, oh, I actually pitched
Already
y'all.
been here, yeah.
They're like, really? And I was like, they're like, yo, it was probably too early on, blah, blah. But yeah, my business has grown solely off of referrals and social media.
And so it's amymalkan.com.
Sorry, yes.
Then all your
All the
social media
socials.
is still Amy Malkan.
Yeah, Amy Malkan. Keep it simple. And that's it. Yeah.
If it's available, why not?
Yeah.
That's the best way to do it.
Well, it's the name, and then I think when you like do other stuff on it, it just gets confusing. So I wanted to keep it branding consistently across the board.
Well, it's been a great deal to me to get to hear your story and have you on the
Thank you.
show, and really appreciate you taking time. And
Yeah, thank you for
don't
having me.
appreciate you showing up me on the coat game, and that's okay.
I should have known better. Sorry. I was trying to figure out what to wear that was good for a podcast, but then be able to be ready to go to get paint on. So I was like, I have my paint clothes on, and then I was like, let me just slap on a blazer, and then we're good to go.
It works, and I'll be honest with you, I think the shoes are pretty cool, honestly,
The paint
because it's
shoes?
the paint stuff on them.
Yeah.
They're definitely one of a kind.
It's funny how many people try to buy this off of me, and I'm like, these are my paint clothes. You want to buy my paint clothes? They're like, yeah, it looks so cool. I'm like, then go buy some cheapo Ross pants, slap some paint, and you got some paint clothes.
That's right.
So easy.
Well, thank you so much for being a part of this. Your story's
you.
amazing, and I can't wait to just keep up with the stuff you're doing, because the artwork is incredible.
Thank you.
I really enjoy looking at it, and so keep doing your thing. And
Thank you.
and I
Appreciate it.
appreciate everything you're
Thank you for
doing.
letting me
And
share my story. I hope
Oh.
it helps a few people.
if it helps one person, if it may
Job
change
done.
the world for somebody else.
Yeah.
So it's outstanding. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And if there's ever anything I can do for you, please let me know.
Will do. Take you up on the offer.
All right. And that's it.
Peace.